Hello, BookTube. I've got 3 new books I want to go over with you. 2 are already opened, but one is not, so we have the thrill of opening one package together. The first one is a police procedural thriller. Quite a few out there I know who like these things. I like them myself. This is by Scott Shepherd, and it's called The Last Commandment, an Austen Grant of Scotland Yard novel. And as you can probably guess from the title, the crimes are Ten Commandment themed. I haven't read a book like that in years. Christmas time in London, when 3 seemingly unconnected victims are murdered with matching sequential Roman numerals carved into their foreheads. Metropolitan Police Commander Austen Grant finds his answer in one of the last places he'd expect, the Holy Bible. Each of the deaths corresponds to a transgression of one of the 10 commandments, and Grant must find the killer before the remaining commandments are commemorated with homicides. Unfortunately for Grant, the next victim with a number on its forehead that it should be that's all right, turns up not in London but across the pond at iconic St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York City, turning this English murder case into a transatlantic manhunt spanning 2 global metropolises, each with its own rich history and culture. Commander Grant must team up with charming NYPD detective named John Frankel, as well as his own estranged daughter Rachel, a cunning investigative reporter with conflicting feelings about her father. This is the 3rd novel by acclaimed screenwriter and producer Scott Shepherd, and the other 2, I'm assuming, were Austen Grant of Scotland Yard novels, but I don't think I've ever seen them. So this will be my first encounter with this character and his world. This comes out in this month, I believe. Yeah, they came out on the 13th. And is therefore new enough. I never got the advanced copy, I haven't got the finished copy, but I'll be reading it tonight to see if it's any good. And then this next one is something that we have seen before. I haven't seen this book, but I think we've seen several installments in this series. This is the last volume in Peter Ackroyd's multi-volume history of England. This one is called Innovation. And you can guess from the cover the period that it covers. This is the 6th and final volume in the series. Here, Ackroyd takes readers from the end of the Boer War to the accession of Edward VII to the end of the 20th century, when Edward's great-granddaughter, Elizabeth II, had been on the throne for almost 5 decades. A century of enormous change, encompassing 2 world wars, 4 monarchs, the decline of the aristocracy, and the rise of the Labour Party, women's suffrage, the birth of the NHS, the march of suburbia, and the clearance of the slums. It was a period that saw the work of the Bloomsbury Group and T.S. Eliot, of Kingsley Amis and Philip Larkin, of the end of the post-war slump to the Technicolor explosion of the 1960s, to free love and punk rock, and from Thatcher to Blair. And I know already that I'm gonna love this thing. I've read all the other volumes in the series, but Ackroyd is, he would never like this. He would never like me to say this, but he gets better the closer he gets to his own time, and this book is all about his own time. So this comes out in September. This is the final volume in the series. No idea if, who is this? St. Martin's. No idea if they're planning a big box set of the hardcovers for Christmas. Be a heck of a present. I bet they could recoup their production costs if they did that. Or a box set of the trade paperbacks of all the earlier volumes except this one. I'm no idea if they're planning anything like that. They should be if they're not. But one way or another, I'm going to check. I'm not going to read this right away. I'll read this when we get a little bit closer to September, maybe when I get the finished copy. But in the meantime, I'm going to have to ransack the place and check to see how many, if any, of the earlier volumes I have. I know I have the Tudor volume, and I think I have the first one, and I believe the first volume was the only one that I reviewed for the Christian Science Monitor, I want to say, or the Washington Post. I think I've only reviewed one of these volumes. I'm not 100% sure it's volume 1, but I'll have to check on that. And again, if I remember, I will try to remember. If I do find a review that I've done of any of the volumes in this series, I'll make sure to leave a link to it down below. Although once again, I should point out that if you are one of the viewers of this channel who's kind of interested in what I might have said in a book review, whether I mention it or not, whether I say I will try and find my review and leave it linked down below. And actually, whether or not it's a new book, I should point that out as well. It doesn't have to be a new book. It can be a new release from the last 15 years. In any case, a very good approach, if you're curious, is to simply Google my name and the name of the author. I've lost count long since how many books I've reviewed in the 21st century. It's a lot. So it's always good. If you're curious, it's always good to do that. Just do a peremptory search like that. But I feel certain that I reviewed one volume in this series for a venue. So if I did, I will make sure to leave a link to it down below. And then what's the last thing here? Oh, fantastic. Okay, great. Great. All right, this is another great series. This is a series that you really shouldn't be missing. And this is, again, the final volume in the series. This comes out in a trade paperback original, so $18, in the first week of August, the first Tuesday in August. And this is the Contemporary American Essay, edited by Philip Lopate, who did The Art of the Personal Essay, a big white anthology that a lot of you will have. A lot of you will have seen it in your used bookstores. Or in your new bookstore. The Art of the Personal Essay, I believe, is still in print and still modeled in bookstores. This author has a tremendous talent for curating these kinds of volumes. And the Contemporary American Essay is the third in a series. So we started off with this one, The Glorious American Essay. And then we moved on, or maybe, no, we started off with this one, The Golden Age of the American Essay. Then we moved to The Glorious American Essay, and now we're in the Contemporary American Essay. And I have reviewed the first two volumes in this series. The Golden Age of the American Essay, I think I did for... I wonder if this is going to tell me. Will this maybe tell me? No, maybe not. All right, this does... I actually don't remember where my reviews are, but I've reviewed both of the previous volumes in this series, and I'm going to review this one as well. This one will in many ways be the most interesting of the three, right? If you're dealing with the Golden Age of the American Essay, whether or not Philip Lopate picks one thing by Emerson or another, whether he picks one thing by E.B. White or another, you kind of know what's going to be in there. You certainly know the general outline of the thing. And if you're talking about the origins of the American Essay, it'll be the same thing. There won't be the volume won't be able to go too far afield. But when you get to the Contemporary American Essay, when you get to the innovation of the present age that values innovation above all other things, who knows where you could go in here. The third volume in a series like this, John D'Agata did a series like this before this one. The third volume is almost always the most interesting in that way because it's the least canonical. It's the one that will be the most unpredictable. So what have we got here? The first decades of the 21st century have witnessed a blossoming of creative nonfiction. In this extraordinary collection, Philip Lopate gathers essays by 47 of America's best contemporary writers, mingling long-established eminences with newer voices and making room for a wide variety of perspectives and styles. So who is in here? Let's take a look and see. Oh, I'm going to read this tonight. These sorts of things are just great. So we have Hilton Als, Nicholson Baker, Sven Berkitz, Mary Capello, Ann Carson is in here, Terry Castle, Alexander Chee is in here, Teju Cole, Bernard Cooper, Sloane Crosley is in here. The Doctor is a Woman. Oh, wow, there's lots of stuff in here. Good Lord. Jeff Dyer is in here. Well, maybe it'll be a good one. Maybe it was something I like for a change. Who else? Patricia Hampel, Alexander Heyman, Margot Jefferson, David Lazar, Philip Lopate is in here himself. Barry Lopez has a piece in here, the great Barry Lopez. Thomas Lynch, the great John McPhee. Draft number 4, which I've read, is really, really good. Eileen Miles is in here. Maggie Nelson, Joyce Carol Oates, Darryl Pinckney, Karen Russell, David Sedaris, This Old House is in here. David Shields. So it looks like the table of contents is alphabetical, just arranged alphabetically. Fantastic, though. There'll be a ton of things in here that I've never read. And with a first volume in a series like this, no matter who it is that's doing the series, there'll almost certainly be nothing that I haven't read. Not that that means the whole world, right? I mean, you get the editor's introductions, you get the editor's juxtaposition. They don't just put things in there. They arrange them in sequence. And they sometimes pick little-known gems by familiar authors. So the fact that I would open an anthology like this about the golden age of the American essay, for instance, and say, I've read everything in here, that is not a criticism. But there is an extra thrill in getting a volume like this where half of what's in here I will never have encountered at all. That will only happen in a book that is looking towards the future of a genre that it's covering. Whether the book is a 3-volume series of American poetry or American science fiction, right? If you were to do a 3-volume series of let's say, who is this? Anchor. If Anchor came to you with a huge check, if they went to Mark Richardson with a huge check of money, and said, we want you to edit 3 volumes on the history of the American science fiction short story. And we want you to group them chronologically. We're not going to look over your shoulder. We're not going to micromanage. I'm assuming that the people at Anchor Books would know how any attempt to micromanage Mark would go. So they're probably saying, no, we're not going to do that. The only thing we want you to do is 2 things. One, there has to be relative parity between the genders. It can't all just be men, especially since so many great science fiction authors have been women, and so many of them have been great in science fiction short story form. But they might not even say that, because I don't think, if you're going by quality, I don't think there would be a disparity anyway. But let's say that those people with that huge checky poo went to Mark and said, our only editorial supervision is that we want you to arrange this thing chronologically. The first volume will be the golden age of American science fiction short stories. The second volume will be the silver age, and then a third volume like this will be the contemporary scene and looking forward, new trends. If they were to go to Mark Richardson or me or Jason Harrigan or whatever and ask for that, let's say they went to all 3 of us at the same time. The volume that the 3 of us would assemble for the first part in that series would be very similar. How could it not be? Time has hallowed some of these things to the point where you can't do without them. If not a particular story, certainly a particular author. I was willing to bet that if Anchor went to me and Jason and Mark for that anthology series, the table of contents for our first volumes, even if we didn't consult with each other, would be virtually identical in terms of authors. And I bet there'd be a huge amount of overlap with the second volume. But the third one? No, the third one is where the fun comes in. Because nothing is set in stone here. There is no canon creeping in. There is no stiffening of the joints. Fantastic. All right, well, this comes out in early August. I should point out that one of these 2, I confess I'm now blanking on which is which, but one of these 2, is it going to tell me maybe? Oh, no, you're not going to tell me. I believe the Glorious American Essay came first, and it came out in a hardcover, but I'm pretty sure it's out in trade paperback now. And then the Golden Age of the American Essay, which was terrific, came out as a paperback original, just like this. So I believe it is possible for you to, for $60, get the 3 books all in one series. And again, I'm not 100% sure that Anchor is going to have anybody make a box set. Offering a box set of these things would be great. That would be a great idea. Box sets make great gifts. An essay collection can hardly fail to please a reader. It's not like getting somebody science fiction or mystery where they might not like it. Everybody likes essays. One way or another. One way or another. This is coming out as a trade paperback, and the point I'm trying to make is that when this comes out at your bookstore as a trade paperback, the trade paperback of the previous one will be there. Maybe the previous 2. And they're all worth your time. This is a great series. I say that preemptively, even though I don't know everything that Philip Lopate has put in here. I'm trusting that he won't just load it with garbage. I'm trusting that he won't. I liked a lot of the names that I read there. So there you go. That is our mail. This is encouraging. This is something I want to dig into right away. In fact, I will dig into it right away. So you have the Contemporary American Essays. It's the 3rd volume in this series. A terrific series, charting the evolution of the essay form in America. Just terrific. Then we have Innovation, the last volume in Peter Ackroyd's multi-volume History of England. God save the Queen. This is 4 monarchs, despite herself being big as life on the cover. This is 4 monarchs. This takes you all the way from my beloved Edward to my hated Edward, with a George thrown in there. So a couple of Georges thrown in there. So you've got the whole of the House of Windsor and the whole of the 20th century. Fantastic. And then The Last Commandment, where a horrific serial killer is carving the 10 Commandments into the skin of their victims. And what they're going to do when they get to the commandment against killing, I have no idea. that's going to be a little bit tricky. But one where maybe they'll kill a killer and do that without seeing the irony. Serial killers can't be relied upon to pick up on the nuances of irony. Anyway, that's the mail for today. There's your books. 2 of them already opened, but I'll try to behave myself in the future. And if there's more mail, of course, we'll open it together. But in the meantime, I'm going to wrap this up and go read some essays. So I will be back. Thank you, BookTube.